Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Amar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by David Daniel, co-founder of Founder's Best Friend, a growth-focused consultancy and community designed to guide startups and entrepreneurs through clear frameworks, expert coaching, and sustained support to achieve predictable, sustainable revenue and business growth. David, welcome to Founder's Future.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to dive in. I always like to take things back. Take me back to before you started Founder's Best Friend. What were you doing beforehand? And then what was the motivation to co-found the company?
So I was basically running my own agency, helping entrepreneurs clarify their message, figure out what that customer journey looks like, and then take the right actions after that. So it was doing your typical helping other entrepreneurs get things sorted out and grow their businesses. And while I loved doing that, I realized there were parts of it that I loved, and there were parts of it that I'm like, okay, this is not my superpower. And so I really started to see, okay, this part is easy for me. Man, it's super high impact for people. And then I got connected with two other guys, Nick and Daniel, who are the other co-founders of Founders Best Friend. And we started working together in kind of a fractional growth coaching role where we come in and basically help people solve growth problems. So it's more one-on-one, wherever you're at, working with you for the long haul. But what we saw was that there were really two key moments. Everybody struggled. And we saw that even though we were helping all sorts of different kinds of businesses and helping people at different kind of stages of growth, there were really just two places that, man, everyone just gets stuck here. And we're actually spending a lot of our time in those places. And that's where Founder's Best Friend came from, was we recognize the founding journey is a journey. It's just that you're walking through all these different things. And one of the guys, Nick, he had built out a maturity model of how does your business grow relative to the maturity of your core offer. And so we saw at these two moments, man, people get stuck all the time. What if they just had a friend, someone who's walked that path, who's helped others walk that path, to navigate these two critical moments and really unlock what they're trying to sell and unlock how they grow? And so that's really where we pivoted. And we just, as Founders Best Friend, we really just help founders navigate those kind of two moments. But yeah, a lot of it just came through reflecting on, hey, what do we want to sell? What kind of business do we want to build? And what kind of impact do we want to have? And that's how it morphed over time.
What are those two critical moments?
Yeah. So one of them is that really comes down to, what do I sell? And is that offer validated? So there's a lot of times that we see people that come into that, we call it our Launchpad program. A lot of folks that come in there are coming out of corporate, they have deep expertise, but just being really good at something doesn't mean you know how to package that something and sell it. And so helping them really go, okay, how do we take your superpower, package that into a clear offer that makes sense, and then sell it? The other part, so it's both clarifying that offer, but then it's also validating that offer. Those are both kind of part of that moment, because there's a lot of times people will get it clear and they can at least articulate it well, but they haven't validated, like, the people who you want to help, who you believe are your ideal clients and you believe would pay for this, how many have actually paid for it yet? And so it's like, hey, if you haven't had a level of validation, you shouldn't be running any ads. You really shouldn't be doing any other marketing tactic. You haven't clarified and then validated that offer. So we help them validate that with actual sales, coach them through that, close some clients with them. So that's really that moment, is like, what do I sell? And that doesn't have to be a new business. Like, we see a lot of folks who they've been in business for a long time and they're really good at a lot of things. And so sometimes they have a scattered set of offerings, but it's like, okay, you can do a lot of stuff, which isn't that different in many ways than the person coming out of corporate who has lots of skills. It's okay, cool, your resume is great, but what am I buying from you? And the same thing, you get someone who has a lot of expertise, even if they've been around for a long time, or a startup where it's, the problem that you want to fix and you have actually a pretty stellar solution, but how does that solution get packaged so people can acquire it? Not just acquire your company, but actually acquire your solution and your offer. And so We see, yeah, people have been in business for a while, startups, as well as those kind of corporate to entrepreneur folks. All of them, we all struggle to articulate clearly what we sell. So that's
Yeah.
one of them. The other one, I'll go more back quickly on this one, but is really when the founder is the bottleneck for growth. And a lot of times this is they're either the bottleneck in sales, like they have to be on every call to close, or they're bottleneck in fulfillment. They're touching every project before it goes out the door. So a lot of times they're the bottleneck in both. And so really that's helping people operationalize themselves out of being, whether that was a solo founder kind of story before, to, okay, now I'm building a team and I'm really building a business. Because if you can't take a couple weeks off from your job or from your business, then you own that. You own a job and you can't sell or exit a job very effectively. So we help them turn their job into a business and really operationalize themselves. We call that one rocket fuel. So those are the two moments there.
I like that. Rocket Fuel is actually one of my favorite books.
Yeah, no, it's a good, yeah, that is a good book. And yeah, because in there we're like, okay, what are the revenue engines? But you as an individual can't fill all of these. This is where we've got to operationalize yourself out so we can run these
Yeah,
engines well and really see your business take off.
I like that. That's powerful. So you've got the Launchpad program, which is essentially how can you package what you do in the most effective manner for conversions, and then how can we validate that offer via market research, actually closing clients, seeing do people
Yeah.
actually want this, and
You know,
then
a lot of it is that closing clients. Like that's where we're really market research is good. And we definitely have that as a piece, but a lot of it is okay, let's get your offer clarified. And then it's okay, who are 25 people that if they knew that you sold this, you think they'd probably want to buy it. All right, let's pick five and let's just get on the phone with them and let's call them together. Let's see how it goes. Let's it like see what lights up, see where they get confused, and let's iterate. And so we help people like literally just sell because that's really where it comes down to. If you knew, okay, I talked to 25 people and I close five,
yeah,
cool. Right now I have a new problem. It's not my offer, it's reach. It's like how do I talk to 2,500? But you don't want to go try and talk to 2,500 if your offer, what you sell is squishy.
yeah, I like that a lot. And then the second part is the Rocket Fuel, which is how can we get you out of the sales and the fulfillment and really operationalize so it's true business that you're running.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. How
Yeah.
long typically do you work with your clients on these two programs?
Yeah, so both of them can happen either in a cohort version or a fast track. But we're finding more and more people really like the fast track just because a lot of times they're in kind of like a, hey, I got to get this selling. But also our fast track is much more done for you. So the Launchpad and its fast track version, basically it's a 3-week sprint where it starts out with a longer facilitated session where we're really working through, okay, what is it you're selling? Who are you helping? What's your solution? How are you uniquely better? All these different elements of Launchpad, and we're really working through that. That's the first week. Second week, we form all of that and synthesize it, and then we validate it with the founders. Okay, does this sound like what we talked about? Anywhere you want to tweak? Then the third week, we go, okay, here's a plan moving forward as we validate and as you go to market based on what we know now. Now this is going to change as we iterate. And then so it's a 3-week sprint, and then it's basically 2 months of coaching. And it doesn't always have to take 2 months. We just say, hey, we're for sure going to provide 2 months of sales and validation coaching. And that's where we go. We have that clarified offer. And with that, we're mapping out what's your customer journey. Like, how does someone go from just being aware of what you offer to closing and even referring? So we look at, okay, we want to make sure like that process makes sense, like the business you're building. And we build out a messaging framework. So it's okay, not only how we're going to talk about it here, but how would you talk about it on a landing page or an email
Mhm.
sequence, or all those different elements. But really, we want to validate it with sales calls initially. And so that's why we start with just, hey, who do you know that falls in this category? Let's get on there. And that's what that 2 months is, that validation, coaching, and optimizing to really get the offer dialed in. So all of that happens in basically 3 months. So it's like
Nice,
a 90-day full program, but you're selling by week 4. So
nice.
we go
I'm
pretty
assuming,
fast. Yeah. And we do it that way too, where we're like, hey, how many of these do you need to close to pay for the program? Like we do it by principle of, hey, validation happens through actual sales, but we also do it by design as, hey, it's a cash flow positive experience where it's like, if you close these sales, hey, you are already ahead in the whole thing. So
I like that. I'm curious how you, a founder's best friend, acquire customers. Like from a lead generation marketing front, what are you guys doing there?
there's a couple ways. A lot of it comes through referrals. We do workshops here locally. We're in Austin. We We're working with a founder community called Fiesta here. We helped them build their online side of their community. They have an in-person meeting once a month with a couple hundred founders that show up every month. And so that's a piece of it. We do a lot of partnerships also with both marketing agencies and venture studios where they'll get deal flow. Like an agency gets, I was actually just this afternoon talking to a guy who runs a marketing agency, and he's like, yeah, we get deals where you're like, I can run ads for you, but nobody's going to buy when they land on that page.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
because you can't tell what you sell. And so we call that our perfect prospect program. So if someone comes to them, they get deal flow where it doesn't quite, you're like, yeah, you don't know what you sell yet. They'll refer them to us. We'll help clarify that sale and then refer them back. And it's a win-win because it's if someone is trying to market a unclear offer, it's painful for the marketing agency, it's painful for the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And good marketing makes a bad offer sink just faster. So don't want
100%.
that. So that's a big partnership where we work with others, especially since 2 out of 3 of us come from an agency space. We get that world. And then, yeah, with venture studios where they'll get either deal flow where they're like, okay, they need some help before we want to put money in, or some of them will actually say, hey, we're going to give them money and we're going to allocate part of it to this part of it. And that ends up being both either Launchpad or Rocket Fuel, sometimes depending on where the startup is at in their maturity journey. But that's another place. Those are 2 places that we partner with kind of those communities. Is they're also helping founders because that's where we're all in this space of, hey, we're wanting to find people, help them win, but we each have different parts that we bring to that. And so since we don't do the fulfillment, like we don't run ads for you, we don't build websites for you, but we have a great set of referrals for that. And so that's why that works really well because we're
Yeah.
helping people similar, adjacent or overlapping moments, but we do different things.
I'm curious why you guys don't run ads personally
For the folks in our program.
or for no for yourselves.
Oh, for us. Oh, and we also, yeah, we run ads too. Sorry. Yeah, that's
Okay.
we do get
Yeah.
folks. Yeah, we do
What are
get,
those
yeah.
what do those funnels look like?
Yeah, so there's honestly, those are newer right now because we refactored a few things and we took a pause earlier in this year and we had enough deals like working out. So took a pause. We're restarting that honestly this summer. So we have a few of them running basically Facebook, Twitter, and some direct outreach through a partnering company where they'll
Yes.
reach out to people by text and just go, hey, is this something you're interested in? And they'll supply folks that way. So those are the 3 ways we're doing that as well. But
Very
those
cool.
are all still in the restarting it, honestly. But so
Is
yeah.
the call to action going to be book a call, or what do you think that's going to be?
Yeah, with those. So the initial our call to action is book a call. We do a free coaching call with folks to help them, yeah, determine, hey, where is your offer? Because that, like I mentioned, the maturity model before, the premise really is that the stage of growth that your business is in is directly related to how mature your core offer is. So during
Mm,
that call, we're trying to help diagnose like how mature is your core offer? Like where is it? What stage are you in because of that? And thus, what do you need to focus on? What do you need to prioritize? And so if they're a good fit for one of our programs, awesome. If they're not, but we're like, okay, yeah, you have a really clear offer, but your visibility is terrible. Here's some folks you need to connect with these type of folks. So that call is really diagnostic of figuring out where their offer is and thus what their prioritized actions. We also sometimes the call to action is we have a assessment. It's called Market Ready Scorecard. So it's at marketreadyscorecard.com. So you can go there and you can see, hey, how does my offer stack up? So that's also a call to action a lot of times is to try and
nice.
test it out and see where am I at? And then usually people want to talk more after that.
Very cool. So you've got the book a call, but then there's also the lead magnet in the form of
Mhm.
the market ready assessment. What does
Yeah.
the sales process look like? Is one of the founders in charge of all the sales calls? How does that work?
Yeah. Between the 3 of us. Yeah. That's part of what we were sorting out earlier this summer. But so I ended up on it depends on if it's closing that call. If someone's like, yeah, I want to do it, I need to get signed up. That's one of us who's doing more of the sales ops. If it's someone who is a startup that seems to have some funding related needs, that usually ends up with Nick. And then I end up taking a number of those. It's just fun too. I probably should take less, but I just really love like those calls. They're a blast helping people figure out what's going on. So some of it ends up deal flowing right now between the 3 of us, just depending on where they're at.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious now with the new initiatives, when you think over the next 12 months, what
Mhm.
milestones are you aiming towards? What targets are you guys aiming towards? What is
Yeah, no, that's good. Right now, because like I mentioned, we have cohort programs for those as well. And so because of that, we can scale pretty fast on a lot of the things we do. And because we deliver something really targeted. So that's where we're looking at bringing on another 200 here. And so that's really, yeah, because there's so many people that, I mean, the number of entrepreneurs is enormous, but the number of people who are spinning their wheels because they haven't clarified their offer and they're trying to sell something squishy, or they're a lot earlier in their journey and they're focusing on stuff way over here. And you're like, hey, you don't have to worry about that stuff. Just focus here. So that's where we're excited to be able to help a pretty broad range, or yeah, pretty broad
yeah,
reach of people.
nice. Are there any specific revenue targets you're aiming towards?
That would be a good question for Daniel, honestly, one of my other co-founders. But yeah, not that I, yeah, not, I would probably, if I said it, if I aimed at something, he'd be like, no, that's not what we're aiming for. So, yeah, that's more on his expertise there. That's
No
where
worries.
working as a team in that way.
There you go. I'm super curious. When you think of the targets, I feel like are the biggest challenges to getting there?
Yeah, for us particularly. Yeah, probably one of them is, I don't know if this is totally, this is just a challenge in general, is that I mean, this is actually partially, I'm thinking about a conversation here just in the last week with a partnering agency. And just we were talking about, they're like, yeah, we have a lot of folks who we'd want to send to y'all, but to be honest, sadly, they've tried a ton of other things and they've burned all their cash on
Mhm.
tactics that they never should have been starting in the first place. And
Yeah.
so that's honestly been a little bit of a tricky spot is you have these entrepreneurs are going through coaching PTSD in some ways where they've signed up for this other program or they've signed up for this service and it didn't work. And a lot of times it is because their offer wasn't super clear. And so they're in this, do I want to try again? Do I want to? And so that's been a little bit of a challenge is helping people who are like, it totally makes sense for their business, but their entrepreneurship's a hard journey. And so they're in that emotional, like, do I want, even I think about a guy I was talking to last month, and as we processed through during the free call, this totally makes sense. This is exactly what I need. But I also like might just want to sell the business. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. You've got to make that
Yeah.
choice. And if you want to grow this, I would love to help you win. If you want to exit, well, one, you might want to grow it and then exit. That's also an option. But if you're just like, I'm done, then it's like, hey, like you've got it. That's a choice you've got to make. And so that's where we do run into folks at crossroads like that a lot of times on the Launchpad side, less so on the rocket fuel side of things. But that is a challenge. It was a little bit of
Yeah.
helping people because as humans, we make emotional decisions. That's just normal. And they're in an emotionally charged or exhausted like moment in their journey. And so it's like trying to help care for them, but also go, hey, if this is where you want to go, this is the path you have to take. And so that there's going to be some scary steps, but ultimately you got to choose to take those. And so it's that tension of inviting them and encouraging them, but also giving them that agency to make that choice, obviously. And recognizing that a lot of them are coming in a tired or stressed moment.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
same thing in rocket fuel sometimes too, where they're not in that same moment, but a lot of times if you think about it, if someone has been the bottleneck for a while, they can things can be pretty tense. And it's like, all right, guys, we're gonna work through the program, but you're gonna have to learn the word no for a little bit for some things so that you have bandwidth to make these changes as we work through. Okay, let's map all the functions in your business. Let's
For
look at who
sure.
all the people are. What SOPs do you have? Trying to help them, even usually still working on their offer, because even if they've been around for a while, it's like, why can't someone else sell this? But
It's
yeah, they're in their own stress moment. So I think that's been an interesting thing if there's like part counselor, part business guide.
Oh
Yeah.
no, 100%. It's very interesting. That's a tricky one because I find I do a lot of sales calls and I find that you're a
Mhm.
therapist for a lot of them.
Yeah,
When
totally.
when you're dealing with business owners. I obviously there's a lot of sales like tactics that you could use in terms of like how to
Mhm.
handle that objection or if it's truly an objection or actually just a smokescreen. I'm curious if you've thought about ever adding in some sort of guarantee or trial period because I know that's something that we've done before with people that have been burned in the past. It's like, hey, listen, you're gonna get a one-on-one coach. Hop on the first call with them. If you don't like it at that point, we'll refund everything. That's not a problem. I'm curious if you guys implemented something like that.
We've done that some where we'll let them come join like a coaching call and just check it out. And some of it too, I mean, in a like where we look at, okay, like we're going to validate this with, let's say, 5 sales. What's your profit on 5 sales? Like, and that honestly, a lot of times they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. If I really believe you're
Yep.
going to help me sell 5 times, like that we're going to successfully sell 5 times. And now sometimes there are people who take, I'm going to say, like, it's not everybody gets like rocket ships off. Some people get into it and go, oh, I actually don't want to do this business. And like, ideally, we get that fit sorted out really fast. But, or there's people that are like, we have one guy, he went through the program and he like hardcore pivoted after that. And he's, oh, this actually helped me clearly see. And so, in one sense, it's okay, that's a little like discouraging. But if you step back and look at it, it's like, okay, if he hadn't done that, he probably would have struggled on for another 2 years because he had resources to
1000%.
do it. And
Yeah.
never would have. And so I used to run, before I was doing the agency stuff, I was running design sprints. And that was always one of the things when we get to like day 4 and we're like, okay, we're going to test this with real people. And our prototype might fail. And that's not actually a failure. That's really cheap learning. And because otherwise you would have built the whole thing and then found out it didn't work. So that's a piece of it where we don't necessarily guarantee, but
Yeah.
I can only think of a very small number of people who either pivoted, and really none of them were like, it just doesn't work. They either made a hard shift in there. And so they went, okay, let me figure this out. And then I want to come back and do the rest of my coaching time because they're going back to the drawing board. The other thing in there, sometimes we do have a downsell offer that's like a micro version of
I see.
Launchpad that it's like, hey, we can do this. We can do it in one day. You'll get a one pager out of it that you can go try and sell. And if you decide, hey, this was actually really helpful, I want the rest of Launchpad, that'll count
Yeah.
towards Launchpad itself. So that's something we'll do too. That's a like paid trial in a sense, but you get real value out of it.
Cool. What is the best way for people to reach out to you guys to work with you?
Yeah, they can come to foundersbestfriend.com. You can book a call right there. If they want to do the assessment, like I mentioned before, the market ready scorecard.com is kind of where we have that assessment living. But yeah, they
Awesome.
can find us at foundersbestfriend.com is usually the best way to
Awesome.
to book a call.
Beautiful. David, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I love getting to chat with other people who are in that journey, walking with others in that journey. So it's a lot of fun.
100%. So that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, excuse me, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to foundersbestfriend.com to connect with David, figure out more about their Launchpad program, their Rocket Fuel program. That's foundersbestfriend.com. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or an agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to jump on a call with our team and discover how we were able to go from 0 to 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.